Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Tuesday night. It's live at 9. It's CrowCast episode 81. Welcome, one and all. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are live, so as always, we can see your comments on the side of the screen there. So do get involved. Drop us a message. What's up, everybody? Stephen, Nat, drop us a message. We generally love talking to you all. Join us very shortly. We'll be chatting with the main man himself, Mr. Andy Cairns from Therapy. So stay with us. Any questions, anything you want to ask Andy, let us know. Within reason. Ronnie Exford, how are we, brother?
Yeah, very well, man. Interesting week. We've been busy in the Crow's Nest. Few games of football. So look out, Steelhouse. Now we've started really training and heading towards you, watched a bit of Squid Game. I think I told people on the socials. I had to jump on the bandwagon. Didn't know what it was all about. Have you gone down that rabbit hole yourself? Or
Yeah, finished it. Yeah,
interesting. Without giving spoilers away, because I know there's a lot of people who still haven't seen it. But yeah, bizarrely hooked. I don't know if you were the same.
Yeah, you just kind of wanted to know how it was going to end, really, didn't it? It was just bizarre as well, because obviously your subtitles, well, not subtitles, what do they call it? Overdubbing.
Yeah. Which isn't normally my bag, I gotta be honest. Normally, if I watch stuff like that, there's an instant disconnect. But for some reason, I get what people were saying. I kind of started watching it and I forgot about the overdubbing. I gotta be honest, because obviously, you know, the series speaks for itself. There's stuff that kind of unfolds and you start thinking, what am I watching? There's like bits of it where it's just diabolical, and then there's bits where you're like, Jesus Christ, where's this going? And like you said, you just hooked right till the end, and you become a stat at the end of it of the millions upon millions of people who have been watching it.
Yeah, it is funny how one person says something, don't they? Check this out, and then everybody jumps on it. But yeah, it was pretty decent.
I weren't going to bother. Like I said, it was one of those rare occasions where you put something on in the background, and it does happen now and again, and you tend to stop like working or what you're doing, and you kind of focus more on the TV because it's attracting you in, and that's what happened with it, so I hope that doesn't give it away, because there's nothing worse than watching something or listening to something and everybody's spoiling the outcome, because there's just absolutely no point then. But yeah, it's a bizarre watch. Just bizarre. That's obviously not the highlight of the week, mate. We've had a lot of great news in the Crow camp. There's a busy schedule ahead of us. Starting with tonight's incredible guest, we got another one to announce in a couple of days for next week. Then we head towards the Halloween show.
Ooh, he's at the microphone and everything. Yeah, Halloween. You guys out there have been incredible. The pre-orders for our brand new t-shirt. This actually stops tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. So if you do want this t-shirt, you've literally got from now until tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. to get it. After tomorrow, that's it. We won't be making any more. So it's a one-time offer, really. Thank you for everybody who's pre-ordered already. We're going to be very busy getting them out to you as soon as we get them. But you will have them in time, obviously, for Halloween.
Yeah, and moving on, we've got a few dates left of the year before we close 2021, which is bizarre to say that. It's absolutely bonkers to say that, because we've had a great summer, managed to get out to some incredible festivals, like a lot of bands, which I can't wait to speak to Andy about later as well. And so we got the kind of closing chapter of 2021 before we hit the studio and record album number 3. Can I play a quick little highlight reel of what we got coming up, mate?
Let's do it. Oh, take me back.
Oh, Cardiff Castle. Doesn't that seem like... That seems so long ago. It's mad, like. It's absolutely bonkers. It was only a couple of months ago, but just time's flying, mate.
It is ridiculous. None of it makes sense. Squid Games makes more sense. It's yeah, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Incredible gigs and Steelhouse, obviously. Those videos there. Get to see all your faces. So get your tickets if you haven't already.
Yeah, and it's going to be the one and only show we do in Scotland this year as well, because a couple of people have messaged us privately and said, will you be doing any surprise spot gigs? No spoiler, genuinely no tricks up the sleeve. Monster Fest is the only Scottish date of this year, and that's the truth. Literally, we're heading towards a studio, as we've said on previous CrowCasts. So that's the weird thing in the whole band life. You've got to try and fit everything in. So these 4 dates will be the last people will see us, as far as I know, this year.
Yeah,
which is cool.
And to headline Rockstock then at the end is just the icing on the cake. Whoa, unbelievable. But yeah, this year's gone flying.
Yeah, from managing to do a download, considering there wasn't going to be a download this year, so appearing at download to headlining the stage at Rockstock, it's been a fantastic time, mate. And I suppose when we do some sort of recap in a few months, it'll be a lovely highlight reel. Like, you know, it's unbelievable what everybody's managed to get out and achieve, like, you know, especially the rock community as well. All the fans managing. This week I've just been looking at posts constantly on Facebook of everybody's like gigs and who's playing and who's being announced. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful sight. Like,
it is, man. Next year is going to be insane, I reckon.
Oh man, but we'll chat about that with the boys. Shall we have a guest?
Cannot wait for this. Ladies and gentlemen, CrowFamily, our special guest, frontman of legendary rock band Therapy, is Mr. Andy Cairns.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Andy, how are you, sir?
Hello, Shane. Hi, Ronnie. Hi, CrowFamily. How you all doing?
We are very well, brother. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a real honor for us, dude. Cannot get enough of your band. We've said this many times on CrowCast. We're going to get straight into this because I can't wait. But there's certain bands that we kind of grew up with in school. It was Wild Arts. It was obviously Nirvana. And you guys, Therapy. And the mad thing was I was hearing people in my form or year older jamming to your songs. And I didn't know it was Therapy. So I would hear your songs by fellow friends jamming in the room. And like, who's that? And then like Therapy, and then it goes, oh yeah, Therapy are much better now because obviously they play it. They were playing it like shit. But dude, your songs from like what 13, Ron, 14?
Yeah, wow. Definitely around that time, honestly, and that's why it was so cool to have you on, because we've done jam nights. We've talked about it in CrowCast. That was kind of our pedigree of like getting into bands and stuff, is going to jam nights. I'm not sure if it was the same where you were from. But the cool thing was every jam night featured a Therapy track. Yeah. Like, do you know what I mean? That was the, you know, there'd be at least a pool of musicians who knew a song, and guaranteed that would be played. So whether it was played by a different drummer every week or a different guitarist, but they would always be part of that, especially like, you know, growing up and leaving school and going into college, it was just part of the playlist, like, you know, so
that's amazing. Really was. Oh, thanks, guys. That's incredible.
Yeah, like for me, obviously we talk about your album Trouble Game a lot, but like Screamager, when you think about like songs that are the signature chords, like if you look at like Nevermind, Smells Like Teen Spirit, those for me, Screamager was that. It was that distinctive chord progression. You knew exactly what song it is.
Yeah.
Did you know that, dude, when you were writing it?
Well, the thing that became the signature, the kind of the da-da-da stabs, that was the last thing that happened.
Really?
Because initially the song was it didn't have that at the start. It went and the rest of the song was as you hear it. Wow. And we've been in America. We really like a band called Helmet from the States. We went on to tour with them and stuff. But they used stops a lot, so that was a part of their trick. And just before we went in to record the single, because we did that single before Trouble Gun, we did it on the Short Sharp Shock EP. We were rehearsing it, and we were sort of saying that we still think it needs something else. And the producer, Chris Sheldon, he agreed. He said, yeah, I mean, the drum fill's great. The chords are great, nice riff, good chorus, but it still needs something to set it up. And we just said, well, what would Helmet do? And we said, well, they do stops. So we tried several different ones, and then the one that made the most impact was the one that made it to the record. Yeah, so that probably happened maybe about a month before we actually recorded the thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because initially it was just tight chugging, so it was and then at the last minute we thought, well, it needs something extra, and we're so glad that we did that because it's become like the signature part.
It really is, dude. That is so. You just hear it and you know it's that song straight away.
Yeah,
it was like one of the songs as we were saying earlier. The boys used to jam in our school constantly, like.
Yeah, I love hearing that. That's absolutely brilliant. I'm really chuffed with that. Thanks for telling us, folks. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and then it kind of rolled on because we left school, went into college. It would be yet again in jam nights, and then I just remember, like, even early 2000s, mid 2000s, you'd be going into any pub, especially from where we're from in South Wales, and it'd just be always on in the jukebox, or a band would be playing, and you kind of always knew if they were going to be a good pub band because they would have a therapy song or a fucking wild art song or something, you know what I mean? Something of that taste, like, you know, it was like, oh, here we go. This is going to be a good night, like, you know?
And it's possibly one of the best first lines there is in a song. With a face like this, I won't break any heart. I mean, that was my teenage years, dude.
Oh, man. Well, that's what the song's about. And it's, you know, also, I used to work in a factory as well. And I think the song, that opening line was, whenever we had kind of got our first indie deal, I used to work for a factory and I went and handed in my notice. And the foreman sort of went, so what are you going to do? And I went, well, I'm a musician and I'm actually we've signed a record deal. And he looked at me and he said, what do you do in the band? And I went, play the guitar and sing. He went, you don't look like a boy that would sing. Almost as if, you know, unless you like, I don't know, Robbie, you know, Tony Hadley from Spandau Ballet or Dean Martin, you know, like swarthy and sexy and everything like that. It was almost like you're leaving this job and this money with that face to go and do this. You know, it was almost like, are you mad? And I think that's where that line comes from, because also, you know, the song's about growing up and about learning to deal with all your issues, and most people at some point in time, no matter what looks they're born with, have that great sense of insecurity. And also the way that we deal with things is a very Northern Irish thing. That there's also a little bit of humor in it as well. You know, it's very dark, but at the same time you can look at it as almost like kind of sardonic quote, and it sets the song up nice. I think I'm a sucker for good first lines in songs.
Yeah, it's incredible because not only that, like the boys would say it in school as well. You know, they would change it. They would like not bullying, just banter, as you said, with a face like that you won't break it. You know,
oh my god, I've created a monster. Oh, no.
It is incredible. It's incredible. Like, there's so many amazing songs on that record. I know we've jumped straight in there, but so when you were quitting your job, dude, so what age was that?
Well, this was 1990. So I was 24. Well, the band had been around for about a year.
Yeah.
And the other two lads in the band, they were 19. And I've known them from kind of the area that we live in is East Antrim.
Right.
And I knew the lads because they were always playing in punk bands and metal bands. But, you know, I'd been in a couple of bands and we just got practice with Michael and the original drummer Fife. And we'd put out a record ourselves, and we got our first deal we got a worldwide deal. We got Touch and Go Records in America and Ouija, that was through Rough Trade in the UK. And I just knew we were touring so many punk gigs, and we were beginning to tour Europe. And I knew that I couldn't keep the job down. And, you know, I mean, I didn't exactly go into any great wealth. You know, I left the job, and because I didn't have time to do it. And then for ages, we were kind of living hand to mouth for a couple of years until we got a better deal from another record company.
Right.
But It was the best thing I ever did. It was just a complete sense of freedom to just pursue what I'd wanted to do since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I love that. Do you find as well, and bouncing back and forth, did you find it just as hard then to come over to the UK as it is now? Because we know a few bands from Northern Ireland, and they're incredible bands with incredible albums. And we've only been over once to yourself, but we just know that a lot of bands find it harder to come over, because the finance, especially if they're not there, it can cost a lot of money. Was it easier then, or is it getting harder, or?
I think it wasn't too bad. I mean, because we wanted to come over, we wanted to play. You know, one of the first gigs we played if we started coming was Newport TJ's. Yes. You know, we went to Scotland, we went to Wales, because that's what we'd wanted to do that. And we grew up liking bands like Fugazi and a lot of DIY punk bands. So we were incredibly good at looking after our money. You know, so if we pressed up, we all got jobs, part-time jobs, and funded our first 7-inch single. And if we sold 10 copies of it and 5 needed a bass drum pedal, we would actually spend the money on the bass drum pedal. You know, we wouldn't waste it. But I suppose, I mean, I'm quite a lot older than you lads, and I mean, Northern Ireland back in 1990 wasn't the place that it is now, and it was a lot more difficult. People's perception of you. So you know, nowadays, like if you say you're from Northern Ireland, people of a certain age, it just means you're part of the island of Ireland. And whereas in those days, the political situation was still hairy, so there'd be situations when people heard our accent, it could lead to trouble. There was, several times we were collared by the police because they heard our accent and taken in for questioning. Wow. You had to be careful in certain towns when you were loading out your gear. If anyone heard your accent, it might all kick off. But we just were so wanting to do it that it was worth any kind of hassle. And it's 95% of the time it was amazing. And we just we would leave, we would get in a van, we would rent the cheapest ferry. We would travel over to Scotland. We'd get a gig in Scotland. We'd come down. We'd do a couple of gigs in the Midlands, over to maybe Newport TJ's, down to London. And we would be living off like a £5 a day. And we would have a little network of people that we knew that were in college. So we'd phone up somebody and go, that would live in Leeds, that maybe were friends of ours in school, and go, we're playing in Manchester tonight. After the gig, can we stay in your floor in Leeds? And they would go, yeah, sure. So that's how we kind of kept and stuff.
In a telephone box as well, isn't it? That's
anywhere.
Because we were no, it's not just that. We were on the tail end of the 90s trying to promote our band, and everything was either done on your mum and dad's phone bill, which you'd get a clout for, or in the phone box. You're trying to phone people in a phone box, trying to get.
I didn't think you lads were that old. You see, so that's really good. Rock and roll's been very kind to you. Yeah,
thank you very much.
No, it's. I remember the phone box. I mean, so then you would have remembered. Had you gone to Europe at this point, or was this still kind of UK?
No, if I'm honest, we were out of the gate. So we, like I said, we heard bands like Shane said, yourself, and whether it be the Wild Arts, Nirvana, and stuff. We were pretty active from 14 to 16 years of age, and we just started kind of hiring buses and going to London and taking 52 people on a coach. And packing a pub out in London, but postering as well at the same time.
Yeah.
So we'd all be in each other's parents' house, basically putting them both in debt and phoning these clubs up or promoters and blagging it. Hey, it's Steve from blah blah blah's agency or whatever. You put on a fake accent. I've got this band. And we turn up as school kids, and as long as we could get a bus to take us or somebody's dad, we just managed to kind of get ahead of the game pretty quick and savvy, So, and then everything changed really quick, from putting a poster up. We've said this on CrowCast, to flicking a button now and you create an event worldwide, it's bonkers,
It is, but I mean, it's it's what you do. You do what you have to do, don't you?
Yeah.
I remember what you're saying about the posters. I remember our first single. We pressed up 1,000 7-inch vinyl singles, and we found out that we wanted a picture sleeve, but it was going to be, I think, £100 cheaper if we folded the sleeves ourselves. So I got 1,000 sheets of A4 card sent to my mother's house, right? myself, Michael, and Fife, we turned up, I think, 1 o'clock in the afternoon with Pritt stick and scissors, and we cut and folded 1,000 copies of the picture sleeve so we could put the records in to save us. It might have only been 50 quid or something like that to save us money. Never again.
Oh, that's brilliant. So when you were like obviously venturing over, and TJ's, we grew up with TJ's. We were fortunate enough to play there in a legendary place. Is that how it works? You would come over, make an impact, pick up fans, and then go back home. And then obviously yet again post out to the record labels and stuff. Because how did that record deal happen? Or was it just that song was so impact like?
Well, the record deal that we got was, as I said, we pressed 1,000 copies of a single, and we did it ourselves off our own bat. And then, first of all, myself and Michael, the bass player, we were big fans of Al Jurgensen from Ministry, and he had a side project called the Revolting Cocks, and they were playing in Glasgow and Edinburgh. And also on the bill was an amazing noise band from London called Silverfish. So we got tickets to the concert. We phoned up the venues. They're both university venues, and we said that we're coming over from Ireland. And they said, yeah, you can buy tickets. So this is before online. So we had to phone the venue. They posted us tickets. And we brought over 4 copies of the single in our bag. And we got to the first gig in Glasgow. And we went up to the security guy at the side of the stage and literally said, we're a band from Northern Ireland called Therapy. We've come the whole way over to see Al Jurgensen and to see Silverfish. Any chance? And the guy actually went, yeah, sure, and let us backstage. So we went backstage where we witnessed 2 members of Revolting Cocks. We walked into the dressing room doing 2 enormous lines of speed off an ironing board. And it's like, we were like, great. We walked into this and there was 2 of them doing, and they looked up. Just as they looked up, they went, we're a band from Northern Ireland called Therapy. Can we give you our single? Yeah, sure. And then next door, he rapped on the door of Silverfish and said, look, we don't want to be a pain. Here's your single. And we went down the front for the gig. And then the next night we went to Edinburgh, and both bands went, you guys here again? And we said, yeah, we come over. So the Silverfish people, they run a record label called Ouija, which is part of Rough Trade Group. And they said to us, like, give us your details or whatever, we'll give this a listen. And we sort of thought that was that. And we got home on the Monday, and I think we got a phone call about a week later from Ouija Records, from Gary Walker at Ouija. And he said, listen, it's Gary Walker from Ouija, and Silverfish have given us your 7-inch single, and I really like it. Have you got any more material? I'd like to do an album. And we were like, really? And it's sort of, we said, okay, so we had a bunch more songs, we gave them that. But then the other thing that really put it through the roof, though, was our drummer in our band is called Neil Cooper. And he used to be in a band called The Beyond in the 90s. Amazing band. He was only 17 when he was in The Beyond. And a guy in the business said to us, there's a band called The Beyond going out in the UK. They're looking for support. Would you be up for going? So a few weeks after, we went out, did 7 gigs in the UK in very small venues opening for The Beyond. And we played in London, and we had some copies of the single. And I was totally green. I was asking for directions for BBC Radio 1 because the DJ John Peel was on it.
Yeah.
And I literally rocked up at Radio 1 at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, walked in, and the concierge went, where are you going? And I went, I'd like to speak to John Peel. And he went, I don't think so. And I went, well, he's a DJ here. And he went, well, he'll not be, and he's not on to 10 o'clock tonight. And the girl at reception said, okay, well, leave it with me. Leave your 7-inch single with me. We said, we've come the whole way over from Belfast. And lo and behold, that was 4 days later, he played the thing on his show. And that coincided with us talking to Ouija Records. And it just all went from there. And we were just we just happened to be, all the people that we liked, we gave the record to. We didn't know any better. When we went to London, we didn't go into any record companies' offices. We didn't go to see any agents. We just kind of tried to give it to people that we liked. And it just happened to work for us. We were very fortunate.
Wow, it's amazing. John Peel, man. How many bands did he start their career?
I know, and a really nice guy. He had us on for a couple of sessions afterwards, and what I liked about him as well. I mean, the first time I met him, we didn't talk about music. We talked about football, and he talked about he was a big supporter of Northern Irish music. And at the end of the conversation, and oh yeah, by the way, I was over in Belfast doing that Good Vibrations gig at the Ulster Hall, but he's sadly missed. But he gave us our first chance, and just what corresponds with us, meeting Silverfish and Revolt and Cox and giving them that was they were kind of talking about the band wanted to sign us. About 2 weeks later, John Peel played it, so all of a sudden we are going, oh God, this band's great. The 7-inch single's being played.
Yeah.
So we gave them the album, and then they got us to deal with Touch and Go Records in America. So that all happened within a few months. It was like just because we got on a ferry and went to the show.
That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. That's incredible.
So
that's incredible.
You were about 24, did you say?
I was 24. Michael was 19. He had just left school. He was waiting to go to college.
Man, you must have been buzzing. You must have been like, this is it, right?
Oh no, it was the best feeling ever. It's because it's what I wanted to do all my life. And I suppose I always remember when I was a kid, Paul Weller from the Jam was famous when he was 18. And when you're a kid, you tell yourself all this. So I kind of thought, if I'm not in a band and have a record deal by the time I'm 18, it's finished. Yeah. So, I had a couple of little bands around the town I was in, and I had a couple of bands in Belfast. Never really went anywhere. And I always jammed with people and played with them. And whenever I got together with Fife and Michael, it was playing the kind of music that I was listening to, a lot of noise rock, Sonic Youth, Tad, very early, kind of sub pop music and stuff like that. Whenever I met them, it was just, let's do this, whenever we can get gigs. But it was almost like because I wasn't trying as much that things began to really take shape. But yeah, I mean, the other two, it was really bizarre. They were both so young. And I was 24, and I suppose I was they called me Uncle Andy because I was like 4.5 years older than him. And also, and this is, I hated this, I was the only one old enough to drive the van. So I had to bloody drive that van everywhere. All the UK and Irish tours, I was driving because I was the only one old enough. The pair of them were in the back getting pished. So I was like, and then I would drive there and it would be, well, we haven't got anywhere to stay tonight. So it was someone's turn to sleep in the van. And it would be, well, if the Peelers come along and ask us to move, we're pished and underage. So you'd better sleep in the van tonight. So they would go and kip in someone's floor and I'd be lying under a blanket or a sleeping bag in the back of this orange transit van.
An orange transit van. We had a bright yellow transit van when we were kids.
What kind of nick was it in? Was it like sort of falling to bits, or was it all right?
To be honest, I think the engine was wrecked, but our bass player's father had it resprayed, so it looked $1 million, but it was actually a bag of shit.
It was a bag of shit, and the back was semi cut out, wasn't it? It was like a window cut out the back. And literally there was one seat in the front and then someone had to climb on the amps and the fucking drums in the back. And you just that was the way we kind of went around. Like,
that's really dangerous.
Yeah, I know. And I'm thinking, like, when we went to certain gigs back then, it'd be the case of, we're going down the road, 25 miles, 30 miles. Yeah, jump in. So everybody be in the back of the van traveling to the gig. But we had the same score mate who was just a bit older. He was only a bit, but he drove first. He was the most interested in driving, not realizing he had your job, like, designated driver. And
So what? Did you have a name for the van? Did you give it a name?
Didn't he call it Betsy? Like a standard, I'm sure it was Betsy, wasn't it?
I think it was Betsy. It was almost named by his dad. It was like his dad gave us the van, but it was still his dad's van. And it was just fucking, you never knew if you were going to get home. It was just one of them, like a typical band story, like, a shuttery van, like, noisy as hell. So you get home, your throat's hurting from shouting in the van.
And the fumes coming in the back.
Oh, the fumes are around. But yeah, similar stories. Cause I mean, that was the beautiful thing about those times. It was, you had to get out and promote yourself. You had to, we didn't do so much the sleeping around the houses and stuff because we were so young. But I know older bands would tell us that, and we would learn everything we could off them, like, you know, especially like you said, independently, do what you can. But we did it more on a smaller scale. I didn't really know how the label side of stuff worked. Otherwise, we might have. We always joke about this, don't we, Shane? But I mean, you know, how many bands take 52-seater coaches to London and forget to fucking phone a record label to come and watch them, like, you know, or yeah. But we'd be like, this is wicked. We've just packed out the venue in London, like, you know, and I don't know, you kind of hear the stories of right place, right time, and if you get up the smoke, you know, it'll all happen for you and blah blah blah. So we just thought we just had to create there, and it'll just happen. But yeah, few phone calls from that phone box wouldn't have gone astray. Like, let me tell you.
Yeah. Oh.
But yeah, happy times. I mean, so when the band, obviously you went and recorded the album, then what was that like compared to recording back home? Did you go back home and record, or did you record down in London, or?
Well, our very first album was done in a place called Rattlestown, and so the first single and the whole album was done in Northern Ireland. It was a place called Rattlestown, and the owner, Mud Wallace, God bless him, he died not so long ago. It was the only residential studio in Northern Ireland, and it was famous for the Northern Irish World Cup song when they got into the World Cup, called "When Your Man Gets the Ball." It was recorded at Rattlestown, and also various country and western acts. So you know, it was in this place called Randallstown as well, which is one street. That's the size of the town, and it was brilliant, though. Absolutely brilliant. It was a really, really good studio. It's got long gone now. But that was our first experience because we'd done a demo tape whenever we got the band together, we did a little rough demo tape in a guy's attic. We knew a sound engineer that was also in a sort of band. He lived in Belfast, and he let us use his, I think, attic for 40 quid or something like that. And then the second one was a place in a town called Lurgan that was a bit more, I think it was used mostly for radio stuff, but they let us do a second demo in there. But the first album was all done in a proper studio. But I say proper, you know, but it's compared to what Northern Ireland had at the time, it was very, very state of the art, but it was still very rough and ready.
That's awesome. When the record was kicking off, was it just like sudden? Was it like, because obviously you guys played everywhere. I mean, Top of the Pops, I remember watching you on Top of the Pops along with the other bands and stuff like that. And was it just all like sudden, mate, or was it just the roller coaster vibe that every band talk about? It just starts happening, and the next thing you know, you're looking back going, Jesus Christ, like
what just happened?
Well, I mean, it was kind of the first album we did, Baby Teeth on Ouija, and the second one, Pleasure Death. They were the two that we did before we signed to a major label. And we did an album called Nurse. Trouble Gun was fourth. But what happened was we went over with Baby Teeth, and we played absolutely everywhere. I mean, the first time we went over with The Beyond. That was when we just did a single out. We did 7 gigs. So that was in front of 20, 25 people. But we made sure that we brought some shirts that we printed up, and anyone that was interested, we'd give them our home phone numbers or our address, and we'd correspond with them. But when Baby Teeth was out, that came out in 1991, and we had a John Peel session booked. So we booked a whole tour around that. And then we had, I think, another UK tour later in the year booked around that. But NME gave it a really good review, and Sounds Magazine gave it a good review. And it ended up going to #1 on the indie charts for our first album. And I think that was because of John Peel and because of the music press.
Yeah.
So by the time we did the next album, which was January 92, that we found that more people were coming to the gigs. And up until we released Trouble Gun, it was very steady because we toured nonstop, and we were decent to everyone that we met. You know what I mean? We didn't act like dickheads or anything like that. So everyone we met at a venue, we kept in touch with, and we were polite and we were civil, and we always made sure that we were really grateful for it. If there was only 4 people that turned up, we made sure that we still put the show on for those 4 people. Yeah. And it was that old school thing. It was word of mouth and a bit of play on John Peel. I mean, we used to get quite a lot of coverage in punk fanzines. So it was that word of mouth hardcore thing. We would get a lot of people turning up at shows. it was kind of quite steady. I mean, it seems bad. You know, an album was #1 in the indie charts, and the other two guys in the band were very, very young. In fact, Michael had left college, but Fife, the drummer, was still at college. You know, he was still at college when the album was #1 in the indie charts. But I know, so like literally, we would do a tour, do a drum peel session, but we'd base it around, you know, when he had time off college, and then we would go back and yeah, it was crazy, but we were so caught up in it. It's what we wanted to do that we just went with it, and you know, things like I remember you were saying about the staying on people's floor thing that we did. We did a gig in Cork one night, and I'll never forget this. I mean, you met all types of people, but I remember there was a guy let us stay in his house, and he lived with 2 or 3 bikers, and we sort of got back to that. And the thing about when you do that is, you know, that you're kind of, if that person that lives in that house wants to stay up in the 6 in the morning doing speed, you're going to be staying up with them because there's no way you're going to sleep. And one of the things I'll never forget was they had no food in the house, and they said, "Would you like something to eat?" And a girl that was living in the house brought out a loaf of bread and a tub of margarine and said, "Oh, I don't have any knives and forks." So she put her hand in the tub and buttered everyone's bread with her fingers and handed it around. And of course, like, we're really polite, so we didn't want to say no. we're just sitting there eating these bits of, like, you know, God knows what's in it, and all around us were these bikers all out of their mind and speed, and we didn't sleep a wink. In fact, I think Michael, the bass player, the next day was so knackered that he drank a bottle of cough medicine after sound check to try and get some sleep. He did actually. Yeah, it was outside a gig in Cork, and then we couldn't wake him up before the gig. We eventually we kept putting the stage time back until he kind of came around a bit.
That's amazing. But I mean, so would you say? I mean, Nurse was an incredible album. But Troublegum, is that when the label came on board? The big record label came on board?
No, they came on board with Nurse.
All right.
And they kind of they weren't really sure what kind of band we were, because I used to have really long hair. And when I was the only one in the band that had really long hair, and when they signed us, I think, if I'm honest, I think they probably thought they might be getting a grunge band.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we were a mix of everything, you know, industrial punk,
yeah.
you know, noise.
Yeah.
And that was kind of, we delivered this album Nurse, and it kind of little bits of industrial in it, noise rock, you know, some kind of like dub elements, and the guitars weren't particularly brutal or anything on it. But with Troublegum, I've been listening to an awful lot of old Northern Irish punk, like Stiff Little Fingers, The Undertones, and bringing it in with like the stuff that I love, like early Metallica. And we did the Screamager song, and that was in 1993. And I remember Chris Sheldon, the producer, saying, "Have you got any more songs like that?" Because, you know, that was an outlier for us. It was a pop song. I mean, if you listen to stuff like Teeth Grinder or Meat Abstract that we did in the early days, it was probably more like Killing Joke than it was, you know, like Nirvana or something.
Yeah.
So we said, well, we've got this one called Die Laughing. We've got one called Nowhere, which is maybe a bit too poppy. So we played Chris all these songs. He went, well, they're great. You know, if we're going to do this, let's make it that the theme to tie the album around, like a 20th century version of, you know, Northern Irish punk rock, like Rudy, The Outcasts, Stiff Little Fingers, The Undertones. And that was kind of the concept. And we sort of thought that we knew Screamager had gone top 10, and we released a single afterwards called Opal Mantra, which went top then on number 13. So we kind of thought the Nurse album had gone to 38 in the charts or something, and it got us slightly bigger venues. And we were expecting that to happen with Troublegum, if we're honest.
Right.
And in fact, we thought because it was maybe too poppy, we might lose some fans. Right. But that was the one that brought everybody on board all across the world. You know, that was the time that we'd already toured Europe a bit. But whenever that album came out, it was big all over Europe. It was big in bits of North America, big in Canada, you know. And that's when we started touring really, really heavily with that one. And I think the fact that the riffs were a lot more kind of indebted to punk and hard rock. They weren't noise. I mean, a lot of our early riffs were very noisy. They were like Sonic Youth. This one was a lot more defined, and I think obviously the choruses were really catchy. So and then it just went like that.
Yeah. So obviously, what you knew up to that point, when you signed with a big label, did you feel a change? Did you feel like, oh, we're a proper band now?
Well, when we first signed to them, we sat down with them. This goes back to we can't stress enough this DIY punk thing we had.
Yeah.
When we signed to them, we got quite a big deal for the time. And I remember sitting at a table in East Antrim in Northern Ireland, the three of us and our manager. We said, well, there's two ways this can go. We can spunk all this money on really top producers and making sure we fly everywhere in first class. And, we don't really know if this kind of stuff we do, people will want to hear it in a few years' time. Or we can put all the money in the bank and pay ourselves a modest wage. And that was probably the best thing we ever did, because we didn't fall into that rock star trap.
Yeah.
We kind of thought, it almost felt like we were being rewarded by what we were doing by it felt like a proper job. Does that make any sense? I don't want to.
Yeah.
Totally.
It felt like we're paying ourselves so much every week for what we do. No one's getting paid more than anybody else, and it's kind of rewarding. But it also meant then that we weren't overspending. Yeah. So whenever the Trouble Gum thing happened, that was great. But the first thing we thought of wasn't, oh, we're going to make more money. The first thing we thought of was, oh my God, we can go to all these countries we've never been to before and make new friends.
That's incredible. Beautiful. Considering, the bands, when I think back to that time, how many bands were literally had that huge success, huge albums, and like you said, piss that money away.
It's easily done. I think, that was
your age as well, dude. You know what I mean? You were young boys.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was, I think I cannot thank enough the punk upbringing that we had. I mean, when I was older than the rest, and so I wasn't there for the first wave of punk, but I remember kind of bands like Discharge and all that. And nobody ever came to Belfast because it's such a bad reputation, with bombings and political trouble. But punk and metal bands did. And you would go and see punk and metal bands in places like the Warzone Collective at Gyros. These were places where, bring your own drink, all ages. People looked after each other, vegetarian cafes, everyone. The whole mantra was like, don't be a dickhead.
Yeah.
And then you would meet bands there and they would say, well, how did you manage to tour Europe? And they go, well, we slept on this person's floor. We didn't spend this amount of money on petrol. We found out the cheapest petrol stations. And we took all that on board, and it's still with us to this day. All that. Fugazi was another bunch of our heroes when we looked at the way Fugazi did things, and also I'll tell you what, in Newport, like Simon and people like that used to put on the gigs at Newport, and John Sicolo himself. But we met so many like-minded people there that taught us a lot. They taught us, whenever you do a gig, you should do this. You should ask for this. You should look for that. And they were a great help to us, and we just built up that. It's a mentality that is honestly to this day we still have.
Yeah, I can respect that. Yeah, I was going to say I can respect that, because that's what we grew up, and we were very lucky as well, see, Andy, because we always knew musicians. Like we said to you at the start, we'd go to jam nights, but there'd be musicians 5 years older, 10 years older, 15 years older. Yeah. So they were all telling us the ups and downs. Some had maybe got somewhere in the 80s, but they caught it at the wrong time. So as they would say, grunge came in and wrecked it, or a lot of them maybe had record deals, but they weren't as known because they were like the eighth band of that genre and nobody really remembered them. So there was a lot of good tips, especially punk rock. There was a lot of punk rockers in Wales. And a lot of my friends now still today who worked for fanzines, or they were interviewing people or selling those magazines in the clubs for £1, and almost helping you with the networking as well, which I think is still vital today. And I think there's touches of it now. There's still touches of it about, we in the rock scene now, we're happy to help anybody, and we're also happy to take advice off anybody. Do you know what I mean? Because I still think it's as hard now as it was then. Of you've got to be careful and you've got to back really, really clever. And we've always tried to implement that with our band now. Is always run it as a business, run it sensibly. Of how can we survive together as a unit, like, you know. So I respect that, and I do think it is the punk rock background, like, you know, the independent way. A lot of those bands I didn't really grow up on, but my mates did. But I know, like, for us, it was some of the American bands, like, you know, Effects or your Lagwagons. So they kind of more resonated, or Bad Religion, Pennywise. And then they would go on and get their own labels and stuff like that, and then help other bands. And it was kind of that whole ethos, that kind of, that resonated more with me. Like, you know, it was more the third wave of punk.
Exactly.
Which was cool, man. So when everything was just rocking and rolling, which was brilliant, was there highlights for you and the guys? Any of your favorite countries that you visited?
There's little things. I mean, whenever Troublegum came out, it got a bit surreal, because my favorite concert hall of all time is the Ulster Hall in Belfast. It's in the city centre. It's like 2,800 capacity venue. And the only place bigger than it is the King's Hall, and not very many bands used to play the King's Hall. So whenever I was growing up, Metallica, Anthrax, the UK Subs of Damn, Susie and the Banshees, Jesus and Mary Chain, the Smiths even, I saw them all in the Ulster Hall. And one of my dreams, I would always to be, do you know when you're young and you go to a gig, and even if you still go to a gig now, you go to the barrier and you look at the little glow of the red lights, and you get all excited because you know the band's going to come on. You see the little lights, the LED lights down. Well, I used to try and go to the front as often as possible. And whenever Nurse was out, we actually got to play the Ulster Hall for the first time. And we went from playing the University of the Ulster Hall, and I was, oh my God, I cannot believe it. And I made a point of, when we arrived at soundcheck, I made a point of jumping off the stage and walking to the barrier at the front and looking at my amps. And just think, oh my God. And it took me right back to like seeing Metallica and stuff like that, and just looking at the amps before anyone came on stage. And that was a highlight. And then we got to play that band Helmet that influenced Screamager. Page, the guitarist, an amazing guitar player. He played on a track on Troublegum. So we got to tour with them. We did a track with Ozzy Osbourne, which was really surreal, for the Judgment Nights. Not Judgment Night, for a Nativity in Black soundtrack, which was a tribute to Ozzy. So we were flown to LA with the producer Terry Date, and I sort of thought, you know, our bass player Michael McKeegan is one of his favorite bands of all time, in the top 5 for Sabbath, Venom, and a few other black metal bands. But somebody came into our dressing room with a gig in Copenhagen and said they want you to record a song with Ozzy Osbourne. And I thought, well, you know, Troublegum's big, but you know, the bollocks, that's not that big. And we get sent, and this is how old it was, a fax. Do you remember those? A fax from Sharon Osbourne going, we would like you to do a version of Iron Man with Ozzy. Yeah. So we had a day off. The next day we were flown to London to do the music with Chris Tangarides. So we ran through it at soundcheck in Copenhagen. Then we went and recorded with Chris Tangarides. And then I thought, well, Ozzy will add his vocal later, so we won't get to meet him. And the record company called and says, no, you and Michael, we're going to fly you over to LA. He's doing his vocals with a guy called Terry Date, you know, that did Soundgarden and Pantera. And it was like, we sort of walked into the studio, and Ozzy was at the booth singing Iron Man. And he sort of come out to say hello and shook our hands. And I went, all right, nice to meet you, I'm Andy. And he shook Michael's hand, and I looked over at Michael, and Michael was just going. And Ozzy's going, my name's Ozzy. And Michael's just going like that. Completely froze. And I was like nudging him, going, oh yeah, I'm Michael. And he was brilliant, actually. But that was a really good memory, especially like, you know, it was one of those things where afterwards, like, he stayed, he did it really funny thing. He did Iron Man, he did it in the second take. And we went up to this, oh my God, you did that in the second take. And he went, I've only been bloody singing it for 24 years. And off he went. And then we had a night off in LA. So we kind of went to the Rainbow, and we were going, did that just happen? Did we just get flown over, get picked up at the airport, driven to a recording studio, and see Ozzy Osbourne singing Iron Man to our backing track and then leave. And it did. So that was incredible, especially because if you knew the little villages and towns that we grew up in, people like us never get to sing songs with Ozzy Osbourne ever. So that was a real highlight.
Oh, man,
I'm blown away with that. That's incredible.
He was, and the fact that about 2 years later, he took us on tour with him in America for about 7 gigs, and that was whenever Jack and what's his daughter called?
Fucking hell.
Kelly
Osbourne, yeah.
Jack and Kelly were on tour, and they were like this size. They were like little kids. It was a summer tour, so they were off school, and that was so. Whenever the Osbournes came out a few years later, we were like, oh my god, like they're grown up now. But yeah, they're really good. And Sharon Osbourne was great. Sharon Osbourne got us that gig and then got us on the tour. But that one day, that thing in LA was just incredible because there's nothing ever happened. Whenever we were growing up like that, things like that didn't happen to people from Northern Ireland. It just didn't. There was the Undertones, Stiff Little Fingers, Gary Moore, but nothing had happened in Northern Ireland for a long, long time. And then just the fact that we were doing this was incredible. And we were really, really so grateful that it happened.
That's unreal.
When you went on tour then, what sort of size venues are you doing then?
Well, whenever it was Trouble and the album after that, and Fair and Love, it was kind of Brixton Academy size venues.
Right.
So like that was it. There was a couple of places like Holland and stuff like that where they were bigger. The venues were bigger than that. But we never got to be like an arena rock band, but we got to like play to 5,500. We never went up to that 8,000-10,000 one. But that was like it was Brixton Academy size venues everywhere. Apart from North America. North America was kind of like theater still, but like over Europe and stuff got big.
Awesome. There's a comment here from Pete Williams, if you can get that up. One of the most memorable times seeing Therapy was Reading '94. Soundgarden were main support, the Chili Peppers, and pulled out, moving Therapy up to the main support. You guys went for it and played the set of the weekend, blowing chilies out the park. Even remember Leslie Rankin of Silverfish singing Lunacy Booth with you.
Oh yeah, I remember that well. Yeah, I do indeed. It was Soundgarden were on the same record label as us, so we knew probably before the press did that they weren't going to do it because I think Chris wasn't well or they had some problems. But we didn't think we'd get bumped up. We thought that we'd get somebody else into play, because we were third from top anyway. So we thought we'll end up, they'll get somebody else of like Soundgarden's caliber in. But it's good. There's good footage of it on, because Troublegum had been out. It had gone gold, I think, the week before Reading. We'd been on top of the Pops. We'd been in the cover of Kerrang a couple of times. But what it meant, and it was good, is that when we went on stage, it was dark. Because like obviously Reading's the last weekend in August. So by the time we went on stage, it was totally dark. So we got the big light. Our lighting guy got to do the full big light show and everything, which he wouldn't have got to do if we'd have been on about an hour and a half earlier.
Yeah.
So that was really good. And it was things like that. I've got a son, he's at college now. And, he doesn't like rock music. He kind of likes dance music. And he kind of knows I'm sort of in a band, but he's no interest really in what I do. And he was talking about him and his mates were thinking of going to Reading. Therapy Reading 94. There's your dad.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. He's got to be proud of that. That's incredible.
Yeah, but no kids are like.
That's true. That is true. I do know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about this the other day. We didn't even recognize the last Reading bill. I think there was like 2 or 3, 4 bands maybe we knew, but it wasn't like when we used to go to Reading because we were quite keen festival goers when we were younger, and there'd be everybody there, like the whole Britpop scene, or it was the whole rock scene, or the punk rock scene. It'd just be there, like that was the end of your festival calendar. When now it was like, fuck, I don't even know that person's name. How would you pronounce that one? And it's like he's a rapper, Dad.
Yeah,
like, oh man. And it's an incredible career, mate. And you've recently got the greatest hits, which is now available as well. Which that's when you've wrote enough albums and it's there. That's unbelievable. Like,
oh, thank you. Yeah, that came out it was because one thing I must flag up into anyone that's out there that's in a band or is thinking of starting a band. I was chatting to a friend of mine that's also in a band today about this, because we stuck around for a long time. And we got trouble coming to Fern Love, but after that there was the kind of the wilderness years, whenever the music that you play is not fashionable and it's difficult. But what's that punk rock attitude, the DIY thing, meant that because we had spent tours and tours and tours playing to 25 people and sleeping on people's floors. So when we weren't playing Brixton Academy size venues, we were maybe playing to 600 people, 500 people. Mm-hmm. That wasn't any big deal because we were musicians making a living doing what we do.
Yes.
And we stuck at it. We didn't split up, and things came back around again, and we played to more people, and the record started doing better. And that again is just the background that we had, because this is what we want to do. This isn't something just we do for a certain part of our life. We've loved music all our lives, and as far as I'm concerned, I'll do it when I'm physically not able to do it anymore. It's that's what it's all about, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And thanks for putting up the tile of the greatest hits too, because that was whenever COVID hit, that was our first album in quite a few years to go into the charts again. And that was a big thanks to everyone out there that bought it. And we had a book come out, which was our biography, So Much for the 30-Year Plan, by Simon Young, that used to be the editor of Kerrang. That came out. And it was like, we were able to actually, as a band, be really proud of ourselves and go, we've been here for 30 years. We've never taken the head staggers and buggered off. Yes, we've had some really awful times, but all the good times outweigh that more than enough. And it's been brilliant. And we still, I don't know about you guys, but I feel really, really blessed to do this thing that I do. And I'm sure you guys feel the same way. And myself and Michael, and Neil as well in the band, but, myself and Michael years ago made this, we got to a venue somewhere, it was freezing cold and half the gear wasn't working, and somewhere in the continent. But we had a great gig, and the next day we were having a coffee, and we kind of looked at each other and said, well, we actually made a pact. We said that if we ever get to a venue, and Michael, if you turn to me and go, I'm not feeling this today, or if I turn and say to you, let's end the band there, let's make that our last show. And we made that vow, and to this day we haven't had to do that. But if we ever, either any of us in the band ever gets to the point where we think, I'm not feeling this, not I'm a bit worried about tonight's gig, or I've got a sore hand, I'm not sure how it's going to go. If you're not feeling the gig, then it's taxi.
Yeah, I can get that. I can absolutely get that, especially with everything that's happened over the last couple of years as well. I mean, we've talked about it over the last few months of just going back to it and feeling that electricity and connecting with everybody. And like you said, having a drink with your friends, because that's what the fans, CrowFamily, therapy fans, that's what they become. They become your friends, especially the ones who travel, spend all their money, come into an umpteen amount of gigs to see you. And they even start knowing the stories better than you do. Do you know what I mean? It's so I can I get that. How was that felt recently? I mean, being back on the live scene as well, especially with the whole kind of stop that everybody had to go through,
Well, the first gig we did, and it relates to what you just said, was with your good selves. It was at Steelhouse.
Wow, was that the first one?
That was the very first show we'd done. Since the very last show we did the time, what's it called, the Forum in London on the 6th of November 2019, and the plan was the Greatest Hits was going to come out in March, and the book was going to come out, and we had a massive European tour planned. And then when COVID happened, obviously that was all put on hold. So the next gig was Steelhouse, which was this year in July. And you guys' set, the feeling of the crowd was amazing for that. And that was, me and Mike were starting to go, listen to that, because it was just that was just pure passion. And it was just, everyone was glad to be back in the live arena. And to be honest, we've only done 3 shows. We've done Steelhouse, we've done Bloodstock, which was amazing. And we've done the Godiva Festival in Coventry, which is absolutely fantastic. But it was. Had you guys been playing? When was your first show after COVID? Was it download the pilot?
It was download because we were announced for the main stage of download a few years ago. I don't even know when now anymore. But whenever it was, that was kind of like, oh, amazing. And the momentum was with the band. So where you were going to release the 30-year, we were actually just releasing our record, and the momentum then was the record charted, and then it was brilliant. Now we got download, and then obviously same as you, everything kind of stops. So we didn't think we play download this year, and obviously the pilot came about and everything connected, and the team managed to pull it together with Andy, and that was the first one back, which was just like, I think in all the years we've been playing, myself and Shane, since school, that was like, shit, that's the nervous I've been, because it was the case of and it was good nerves. It wasn't like, oh my god, but it was like, wow. You could just feel it. I can't explain it, but you could genuinely just feel it. It was like you could grab the energy in the tent. Like, it was unbelievable. It was almost like waves hitting you of excitement, like, and that was literally before we went on, and then bang, when we went on, I think about halfway through the first song, he always says it, there's a part of our song now, and he lit it, and crowd started singing it back, and it was like, here we go. And then you just smile on your face and enjoying it with your brothers, like, you know, it was man. And then obviously it all led to Steelhouse, because we have a great relationship with everybody up there, the organizers and the whole family who works through the festival, and that was such an on-off, and because Wales were running differently, probably the same out in Belfast. Wales was running differently to England. We felt as tense, which is peculiar for a band to say that. Normally, it's you know, oh well, it's their festival, their business, but we felt as tense for them, because we just really wanted it to be on, like, you know. And then when obviously it happened, and got to be on the same bill as, like I said, the bands we grew up with, and like Shane said, you know, yourselves. Wild Arts it's just like, it's what you want, like, you know, those ticks to the list, as they say, like, you know. So it's been great being back. That's why I wanted to know what it was like, because I've seen Bloodstock as well. I'd seen footage of you with Bloodstock, and I've seen some other bands there that looked absolutely incredible.
Bloodstock was amazing. The crowd were incredible. I mean, Steelhouse was amazing. I loved it. I mean, I love playing on wheels in a way, but the crowd were great. And the Bloodstock one was good. We did a weird one. We did one called the Godiva Festival in Coventry, and it was like Supergrass, a indie band on first, and the next day was Sister Sledge, and it was in a big park. And we kind of thought, well, hang on, boys, you know, this might be a bit, you know, there might be small children crying when we take the stage here, because we're the only band that's rock and heavy on the bill. And there's 20,000 people there, and we were on the main stage just before Supergrass. But it was incredible. The audience were absolutely amazing. We haven't played Coventry in years, and we took the stage that night, and we got an amazing reception. So, you know, those three festivals, the only shows we've done, just absolutely, it was just brilliant. And I don't know about you guys, but you're saying about the nerves. We had that a little bit of that before Steelhouse, just because we weren't sure. We're not nervous about the crowd. We knew the crowd would be great. We're just nervous about ourselves, I suppose. And when we hadn't really seen each other or anything like that, but we'd seen each other, I think, a week before to rehearse. But, you know, we hadn't been. We realized that we formed the band in 1989, and we did our last gig in November the 6th, 2019, until Steelhouse, which is, but it was this year, wasn't it? It was 2021. So we'd never, the longest we'd ever gone without a gig in a whole time Therapy's been together was probably 7 weeks.
Wow.
So to go that length of time without a gig was insane. You know, we were always gigging or always doing something with the band, and it's just crazy. And, you know, obviously there's
How did you feel the gig went at Steelhouse? I mean, as the first one, was there moments in the set where you're like, oh shit, it's just a little bit off, or was it all like it riding a bike?
I thought the crowd were great the whole way through it, and I think from our point of view, we snatched because we were playing for an hour and 20 minutes, and we hadn't actually played, you know, a gig, as I said, for a year and a bit. And I went on stage and hit everything full pelt. I was like, come on. And 3 songs in, I was knackered, and I looked at the set list.
I've done that so many times.
So I kind of like I put the foot off the gas a little bit, hope nobody would notice until I caught my breath, and then went back into it. Yeah.
My favorite one is being the drummer is like fucking hell. Like we joked about it in the end because there was no like rows or nothing, but we would time the set. Yeah, brilliant, right? They're giving us 45 minutes there. Excellent, awesome. We come off stage. How was that for you? And someone would say, you were off in 30 minutes because of the fucking adrenaline. Every song was just pumping. And back then Shane used to record it on his phone, so he put a phone on the stage, which was great because we could critique it in the van then and work out what to do and how to make it better. But fucking hell, I'd think in the moment, oh, this is great and that's a great tempo, but it would literally be like and then and you could also then I had to learn, like he would say, like, you know, it's the phrasing, or he didn't have the gaps in between to breathe. So by the time
I know exactly what you mean. We had a song on an album called Anxiety called Hey Satan You Rock, and it was a real thrash metal kind of number. And our drummer Neil, that's, you know, his background is kind of progressive thrash metal. And if you've any song which is fast, he just absolutely sinks his teeth into it. Yeah. And I was the same. We played that song live. I couldn't fit the words into the bar. And it sounded amazing because it was just like so high energy. Yeah. But I was like,
oh man, I love it. And you've got obviously you've got a tour coming up now as well, the rescheduled tour.
Yeah,
check that out.
As you said,
I must add that's the initial. There's more being added to that as we speak. I mean, the festivals aren't even in that either. That's just the clubs, and there's a lot more to be added to that. That's just the first batch.
It's just amazing because obviously I knew I was going to pull the graphic up, but I was smiling then when you said that obviously you were in the guys it's the longest you haven't played and stuff, and I knew I was pulling that tour up, and the fact you said you're adding more to it as well is just absolutely incredible.
And I'm just kind of, after having spoken to both of you there, I know I'm really going to have to pace myself. What are you guys like? I mean, I know COVID aside, but what are you guys like on the road about getting colds and stuff like that? Normally, forget COVID, but you know, if you were normally, do you have a tendency we have this thing where one gets the lurgy, and then obviously everybody gets it.
Everyone.
And you get through it. Do you ever find it as well whenever you come home? It all hits you.
Yes.
Yeah. On tour, you get through it. Like every single night, you get through it. You get through it. You come home and think, "Oh, I've got 4 days off here," and those 4 days are spent on the couch.
Well,
yeah, it's almost like you psychologically relax, and then your body just takes a little. I don't know. Yeah, but I'm the same, dude. It does hit me quite hard when I come home.
And we recently just came off the road with the Wild Arts, and literally, I think the first 2-3 days, the wife was LFTing me constantly because she was just like, "Are you all right?" Because I was just, you're just there, no energy. But I do think it's kind of adapting as well because band life is bizarre. There's a lot of hanging around. There's a lot of traveling. But it's a weird sort of energy, and then when you come home, it's almost like you just have to kind of adapt and switch to that. And it's as if
you get the jitters about 9. Do you get the jitters about 9 in the evening? When you normally, if you've got a few days home, you'd normally be on stage at 9.
Yes.
And at 9 o'clock the day off, you're feeling why am I feeling a bit strange? I'll tell you what, this is a brilliant story, and I really, really hope this is true. We did a tour in '94 of Germany, and the opening band was TerrorVision. You know TerrorVision?
Yeah.
And from Bradford, lovely lads. And we did it was a big old long tour, and they were the opening band every night. And then they came at a New Year's Eve party, and they came over to Dublin. I was living in Dublin at the time, and all this. And they said the brilliant story about the drummer at the time, Shutty, who was quite a character anyway. And we were chatting about decompression. So you know when you come home from the tour, whether it's your wife or your housemates, whatever, you are a bit strange for the first couple of days. I find you guys in it.
Definitely.
So apparently what Shutty did with his missus was he had a room in his house, a spare room, and he copied the interior of like a travel lodge. So he bought the same fittings, a TV, a little kettle, a trouser press, And when he came back from tour, he spent 2 days in that room before he joined Normal Life.
I hope that's true.
I really hope it's true. That's what the lads in television told me. I really, really hope that's true because it's such an amazing story.
You hate the travel lodge, do you, Ron?
You know, yeah, I've grown to, because obviously you get the family room sometimes as well to save on the budget. Like you said, we'd rather earn than spend, like, you know, and yeah, if you get that wrong travel lodge and you're right by like a door, that's the worst one. As I've said to Shane, where your room is right next to a door that just keeps fucking opening constantly. Like, you know, they have those like with the key card on them, don't they? And that's just the one that everybody uses. It's like sleeping on the fucking M5 flight. Do you know what I mean? I just had enough on one tour. He'll tell you I was absolutely going stir crazy. But what my favorite thing is coming home and you're laughing or saying silly things that you would with your bandmates.
In jokes and things,
yeah, and nobody gets it, especially my wife. And I know the boys have the same trouble with the girlfriends or the wives. It's almost the case of you're replicating your last 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks on the road, and you're trying it to a different audience that just don't get where you've just been. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, fucking hell, like, it's insane. So yeah, I might have to do the spare room out like a travel lodge.
Yeah, that's. But I think everyone should do that.
Yeah, and shout when the kids close the bathroom door.
So you're going to be working with Chris Sheldon again for album 16?
We are, yes, yeah. We go in very soon. We wrote a whole bunch of songs, and we're currently he's going through them at the minute, and we want to do a 10-track album,
right?
And he's kind of going to say the 10 he likes, run it past us. We'll see if we agree or not. And he's already in the process. I mean, we've worked with Chris quite a few times, and he's brilliant. So he's really good at being objective. I don't know how you guys feel about objective views, you know, with producers and stuff like that, but he's really good at coming in and go, you're kind of doing that riff at the end 6, 7 times. It doesn't need to be 6, 7 times. Or, hey, that's a great chorus. Why don't you do it twice? Or things like, you know, you need something a bit more for that bit, or you can maybe change the intro. And that's so what we're doing at the minute. We've just been rehearsing all the songs. This week he send us edits that he's done at home, and we'll listen to them. And once we've decided, we'll run through them all, and I think within 3-4 weeks we'll probably be in the studio. But the studio is booked. But you know, we'll probably have a couple of rehearsals with him in the rehearsal room, and then that's it. So it's exciting. So the album will be done by November, by the end of November.
Fantastic. What I will say about you, and looking through your catalog and stuff, you mentioned it earlier. All your albums have definitely got a vibe, a sound. All the songs on those albums, they are in context of that album. There's not
that's right.
Nothing sticks out. They're all very within that bubble. So what's this album sound like?
This is kind of, if you like Troublegum and you like the last album we did on Marshall Records, Cleave, and we did an album in 2003 called High Anxiety. It's kind of like melodic, big riffs, melodic choruses, and sort of that kind of thing that we do really well, where it's the lyrics are like slogans on a t-shirt.
Yes.
And the drums the drums, Neil's off the chain on this one as well. I mean, Neil Cooper is an incredible drummer, but we've kind of given him free rein. So he's kind of like he's Michael actually had to say to him the other day, you know, Neil, we're looking for a taste of toms, not all the toms. Because he went full Neil Peart at one point. And then we thought, you know what, we'll lean into it. Well, why clip his wings? So we've just gone for it. It's going to be, I'm really looking forward to this one, actually.
Oh, fantastic. Can't wait to
hear that. You can tell that. You can tell your buzz for it, which is brilliant. That's awesome. Looking forward to seeing you guys back out on the road, to be honest. And
you guys too, as well.
Yeah, because I know we all didn't really get a chance to catch up in Steelhouse, but I'm sure next year now, when the album's done and you're out on tour and stuff, we'll definitely get a chance to try and meet up with you and
Yeah, you're always very welcome, and if you're ever playing anywhere nearby, I'll nip down and see you guys as well. But you're always very welcome if you want to come over and say hello. It'd be great to catch up.
Brilliant! Thank you so much, man.
Thanks for having us on as well,
Andy. It's been an absolute blast. Thank you so much, brother, for your time. Good luck with the album, bud. Good luck with the tour. Absolutely incredible. Get those tickets, people. Therapy are back. Incredible. Let's have a look at that poster again, Ron.
It's incredible. Therapy?mark.co.uk and the whole back catalogue as well as the greatest hits is on there, and exciting now that obviously Andy's got the brand new record on the way, which I can't wait for that.
Fantastic. Andy, thank you so much for your time, buddy. Take care.
Thanks very much, folks, and see you soon. Take care.
See you soon, Andy. Take care, man.
Bye.
What a lovely guy.
Outstanding.
What a lovely guy.
Absolutely outstanding, and it was beautiful of him to spend his time with us, and just another one yet again. It's brilliant, part of our childhood. I know there's a lot of people who've grown up around us who have covered their songs, and it's just a delight to sit down with him and chat. And there's a few stories there that we've read in magazines, or we've spoken to other people who, but there's a few then that I didn't know, which are brilliant, like, you know, and that essence of, you know, when they're on the cusp of getting somewhere, and you can tell a band gets excited, like, you know.
Isn't that incredible with the signature chords with Scream Major? I can't get on that.
I didn't know that. I genuinely didn't know that. Maybe it's in a magazine somewhere. I mean, we'll be definitely asking some of those mates who know the band and etc. Let's get the boys in and see what they thought. There's Shiner, there's Lloyd, and there's Dave.
Still on me.
How's it going, everyone?
Good, man. What do you think, boys? Do you enjoy that one, Lloyd?
Yeah, man. My internet was a bit jittery in places, but yeah, it was good. Interesting, man. Really interesting. Nice guy.
Yeah,
really
nice
guy.
Man. Dave?
Yeah, I love that, man. This kind of made me want to go back on a therapy binge.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, got some good memories of listening to therapy as a teenager, and it was kind of an introduction to. It was almost like bridge the gap. Like he was talking about Fugazi and stuff like that. He was kind of like bridge the gap between the grunge thing and the sort of that sort of like DIY punky sort of thing for me. Like getting into Fugazi, you could tell they were that elk and that vibe, you know.
Yeah.
As a teenager, used to go over and stay over at your mate's house on a Saturday when if their mum was off out or something. And you'd remember we used to ring because we thought we thought Trouble Gum was the heaviest album ever, like, you know. So we'd pick up the phone, ring random numbers, and play Trouble Gum down the phone to him, and just hang up. You're like, that's so heavy, man. Yeah.
Don't worry about the bill at the end of the month.
No, well, yeah, it wasn't ours, was it? So,
what about you, Shane?
I just like listening to you boys. So that I actually listened to Trouble Gum earlier when I was out.
Yeah,
I was out for a walk, and it just all come flooding back. Just hearing that piccolo snare.
It is that snare, isn't it? It's that so like signature.
It is.
You know,
it really is.
And like the band particularly,
and like even Andy's guitar tone.
Yeah,
I was just kind of like, because I definitely remember that one in the 90s from. That was maybe I got into therapy before Metallica, but that was definitely a heavier guitar sound. I was like, oh, what's that?
Bro, when I think of your guitar playing, I always think of therapy. Like I remember you playing a lot of therapy. There's similarities in what you do, especially like the noises on the guitar, like, you know, in between chords and stuff. You know, there's things you do that reminds me of Andy and his guitar playing.
Yeah, because like you were yapping earlier when you were about Scream Major, about, you know, everyone playing it in school and stuff, and I think that was probably one of the first more technical riffs I learned.
Yeah,
and he likes to download a lot, so we could.
I chuckled over that, Shine. So when we heard that story, which, like I said, has blown my mind because I never knew that. I fucking thought of you straight away because I just thought of the da 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 da. That's how we know it, but I didn't know it would go which I fucking thought of you straight away when he said.
That's exactly what I would do.
Yeah, it was like that's the first thing we did, like, you know, and then it was only obviously when they went and looked at their favorite band, Helmet. It was the case of, well, let's chop it up a bit, like, you know. So yeah, I proper chuckled with that one, like, you know. And there's a lot of players I think we all know, boys in the Bridgend area, who that's how they would play as well, because that was the jam nights, wasn't it, Dave?
They were really. But Andy's probably sitting there backstage now. We didn't realize how influential he was to, like, you know, bands of our era. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And totally. The Bridgend scene and the South Wales scene, and how many bands came out that he probably does not realize, big bands now, that he doesn't realize took a massive influence from Therapy. Definitely.
100%. Yeah.
We were just fortunate because it was kind of, I think it was older boys, because like you're only a tad smudge older than me, but you would have been into them Shine before me, for example, and I know like some of the other boys, so that's how it works, like, do you get what I mean? And then mixing that in the cauldron with like your Wild Arts, and obviously none of us could escape Nirvana at that time. It was just like, fucking hell, what is this, like, you know what I mean? So
I genuinely think the first time I heard Screamager was Cocky's band.
I think so.
Oh my God. Yes, it is, mate.
Herb.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Herb.
Fuck, it is. Yeah.
Herb.
Yeah, it was either the Herbs or the trio he had going.
Well, I heard it up the inn. I just remember coming up the inn when I was younger and fucking. Do you remember those? Because we'd be up the inn when we.
Up the inn and up the Fox. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just remember like a band would go on, and yet again it'd be or going nowhere.
Yeah.
That'd be.
I remember Fair Warning doing Going Nowhere.
Yes, brilliant. They were really good at it.
Yeah.
But you'd be hearing, I was hearing that music, like, what is this? And then I go away and find out, like, it was brilliant.
Right,
incredible.
Just commented the objective.
The objective.
Cook.
Evening, Mr. Cook.
Yeah, that's the objective.
Yeah, so it was bands, like I said, around us who influenced us just by going, check this fucking out, like, you know. So yeah, real pleasure to have him on, and
good times, man. Good times.
Yeah, looking forward to doing more with Andy in the future, like, you know.
Yeah, and
he was like a lovely guy as well.
Was that sorry, Dave?
Oh, sorry. I just said he seems like a lovely guy as well. Always helps, doesn't he?
Oh, completely.
Always helps.
It bloody does, man.
No one likes a knobhead, Dave.
Wow.
Fair play. Should we give something away?
Yes, let's do so.
What's the next lyric? It's lyric time. What's the next line? What's the next line? What's the next line?
So, as always, what's the next line? You can pick something off our web store, whatever you want this week. The lyric is as follows. Oh, I nearly said the answer. I nearly read that out wrong. Back off now. Back off now. What's the next line? Go.
While we're waiting for the answer.
Go.
Oh, sorry, David.
Thank you. Did you know you can cook a piece of meat, chicken, steak, by slapping it repeatedly for 8 hours?
For 8 hours.
Fucking 8 hours, 23,034 slaps can cook a chicken. What the fuck?
There is no God.
I did it. Look at that.
So if you're ever stranded and there's a chicken
beat the shit out of
knocking
it.
about, just slap the fuck out of it for 8 hours. This chicken's under slapped. I said that.
Is that where the term a slap up meal comes from?
I don't know. That might be. Good point.
That's
Now,
unreal.
Thinking of that fact, it does ask a lot of questions. Like how did they find that out? And you're thinking what I'm thinking, right? It's obvious, isn't it?
Go on, say what?
Well, the bloke who discovered that, he must have been, having
Slapping
fun.
the chicken.
Don't go there, Dave.
Go on.
Oh, right.
Give it
I tell you what. Well, this is a euphemism, slapping the chicken. Like,
right.
He must have been doing that and then thought, I can smell something tasty. Look
But
down.
not for fucking 8 hours.
burning like something's burning.
Not for 8 hours.
Well, depends if it was sting.
Fair play to him.
Jesus.
Thing.
Yeah, that's perseverance, sitting there slapping a chicken for 8 hours. Let me tell you. Do you know what I mean?
Why don't you
Slap
just
chicken
use the
for 8
oven?
hours.
Unbelievable.
That is interesting. How did they come to that conclusion? Like, was it like I could cook this with the heat? Well, there we are. There's a contraption.
I mean, what it is? You're creating energy in you, and energy produces heat.
Well, it's the old starting a fire, isn't it?
E equals MC squared.
Yeah.
Or
Oliver Mays.
thermodynamics, isn't it? Energy produces heat. So you give it enough energy in whatever form. I suppose you could probably yell at it for fucking 16 hours, and it would cook.
Fucking try it, Dave. Try it. I gotta see this.
Yes.
Just yelling at a fucking chicken for 16 hours. Like,
Well, we're gonna have to
worse night.
we're gonna have to rack up these tasks because I bet you didn't get Indy to listen
Oh,
to
fuck!
reggae
I
music.
forgot about that.
There we go. So you'll have
I'll
to.
get her up now. Indy. Indy.
No, there we are. Write that one down. So there's the
someone
Indie
clap.
challenge. Indy's got to listen to metal and reggae, and we'll see the reaction. And then maybe you can slap a chicken for 8 hours, and we'll time lapse it.
Slap a chicken or slap my chicken?
Slap in the chicken at 37. What the
Slap in the chicken.
Oh.
It does. Does it make you want to slap a chicken?
No.
No, not really.
No, but
I want
if
to
for
see
some
you do it.
reason I end up fucking getting stuck on an island like fucking Castaway,
Yeah,
and I manage
just a
to
chicken.
catch an animal, at least I won't
Only
have to
chicken.
bother with a fucking fire, will I? I just start slapping fucking dead animals. Sorry if there's any vegetarians watching.
There
You're
is.
living in a PG world. Sorry.
You could have the best day of your life with that chicken, Ron, and then you could slap it. Then
I don't know for 8 hours, but
Yeah,
I've ever
fucking
slapped anything for
16.
never slapped anything for 8 hours.
how
Don't know
hard
about
do you
Dave.
slap it? It did say in the little meme was up then. It did say the amount of force you had to apply. There we are. Slap velocity 1,665.65 meters per second.
Fucking how fast is that?
That's fast as fuck.
Oh, so it's proper. Is it truly? You can slap a chicken.
It's like you with that cowbell, remember?
That's what I'm just thinking then. It's fucking proper.
I'm trying to get Indy up here now.
Indy, let me come and slap you.
Indy. What's this? Come here.
Yeah.
She's
What
having
is it,
fucking none of
Indy?
Even old
She's on the
BG.
sofa, she's having fucking none of it.
No, you're gonna have to do that. So video then of you playing reggae music and metal
And
for
slapping
Indy
chicken.
and slapping a chicken for 8 hours. Good
What,
fact,
the full 8
David.
hours or the highlights?
Well, we'll time lapse it now. I don't want to sit here like a telephone. Yeah.
We've got like that on it.
We have. Have we got a winner? Let's move on.
Yeah. Good idea.
We have.
Oh yeah, there was a competition on the go, wasn't it?
There was, yeah.
Chicken slapping competition.
So the lyric was back off now. It's off the song called Don't Give a Damn off the first album, Murder on the Motive. And the lyric is, you're about to see the worst of me. The winner is Mr. David Graham. Congratulations, David.
Well done,
let us know what you want off the web store and we'll get that out to you ASAP. And obviously what size you are.
The best music all day long. Crow Radio. Available now via Those Damn Crows Spotify page. Don't forget to click the green heart.
All right, so this week, I mean, as anyone knows, our good friend Tom Layton passed away this week. He was a massive talent in our scene. So we put together a playlist of Wolfjaw and Bad Flowers songs just to show you how talented he was. And it did knock us for 6 in the Crow camp, didn't it? So we just had to pay our respects somehow. So we thought we'd do it this way.
Absolutely. Look, tonight's been really difficult, believe it or not. You know, we've come on and done CrowCast because, you know, we do it every week. But it's been really difficult. As Dave said, I'm sure some of you know, if not all of you know, devastating news. A couple of days ago, we lost one of our own. That's how it feels. Tom Layton, singer and frontman of Wolfjaw. It just Crows, our family, our rock community for 6. And we just want to take a moment to send a message, as well as all our love, to Tom's wife, Heather, their 2 beautiful children, and to our brothers, Carl and Dale from Wolfjaw. You're all in our thoughts. You're all in our hearts. If there's anything we can do, we're here for you. We shall miss you, Tom. Thank you for joining us, Crow family. This has been CrowCast episode 81. We will see you next Tuesday live at 9, where we'll have another special guest joining us on CrowCast episode 82. But right now, we're going to let Tom and Wolfjaw play us out. Please make sure you watch until the very end. Stay.
I'm in love with the city. I'm in love with the lights. I don't need no one pretty. Looking for
way people react to rock music and stuff. It's really good. It's just fun, isn't it? It's just fun going out and playing in front of new people. It's like the best thing to do, and to meet them after, and to like now, like we put something up the other day on Facebook, and it was like, come back to Spain. It's like it's just nice to know that no matter where you go in the world, people understand the music, understand rock, and understand, it's just good. It's just, I love it.